Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'm really excited to have with me Nazareth's Pete Agnew. Pete will share all exciting information about Nazareth's new album, give us an update on Dan McCafferty's health, what it was like having Guns N' Roses cover one of their songs, and much, much more. This was a really fun conversation, a lot of great information. I think you guys are going to really enjoy this, so let's jump in and let's get started. Well, Peter, I just first want to congratulate you on the upcoming release, your 25th album, Surviving the Law, coming out tomorrow, actually.
Yeah,
After 50 years of recording music, over 50 years, do you still get excited on release day?
yeah. It's a new album. It's always like they always feel like the first one. As it's always a wee bit nerve wracking waiting to see what the fans are going to think of your latest offering. But thankfully, this one's been getting very well reviewed. These days things are getting reviewed before they come out. And people are getting copies before then. So I'm feeling very good about how it's been, how this one's been handled. But it's very exciting, and it's it's good. It's always it's another it's a big milestone. This one as well, 25 albums.
It's amazing, right? Absolutely amazing. I think one of the things, so like you said, I kind of heard an advanced copy of the album. And to me, one of the things that's great is it sounds very modern, very fresh. If you were to take that Nazareth name off, you would think, hey, there's a bunch of 25-year-old kids that just recorded this album. Is that something that's important to you, to be fresh and current and relevant like that?
Yeah, definitely. That's that's what you're hoping. That's you're hoping that how it's going to sound and how it's going to be. Because I mean, in the case of, well, I'm not going to say I feel like 25 being 75 now, but look, in your head, if not in your frame, in your head, you still have that push, and that same excitement about the music, and it's really great to have that, to get the thing does sound fresh, and I think. And that, with the guys, it's a different. It's like a new band anyway, So every time we go in, it's we never know what we're going to come up with, really.
Yep. So I'm glad you just mentioned it's like a new band. So for those who don't know, maybe just talk about what the lineup is right now. I think it's the same lineup you had on your last album, but maybe just in case people who are watching or listening don't know, let them know who's in the band.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's myself, who's been around for Methuselah, and then there's Jimmy Murison, the guitar player. He's been with us for 27 years now. Lee Agnew, that's my son, the drummer. He's been with us for 23 years now, 23 years. And Carol Sentence is the new guy. He's been with us for. He's been with us for 7 years. It's quite funny because a lot of bands don't last 7 years, but he's our new guy. So yeah, we did do the last album, Tattooed on My Brain, with that lineup, and it was. And again, I thought, it was one of these albums when it came out. Not only did we think it was a really great album, I thought it was one of the best albums of our career. It was a great album, and that was one of the things that made us a bit nervous about how can we follow this thing,
Sure.
So I feel as if we have, but it keeps you on your toes, when you've got to try and sort of come back with something different again, for the next one. So I think we've managed that.
Yeah. So, like you said, Carl is the quote unquote new guy, having been there for 7 years, and he had tough shoes to fill. So what does he bring to the album? What does he bring to the band?
Well, he's a great singer, that's for sure. And he does, he's he does Nazareth his way, which is really what we wanted all along. We couldn't have a Dan sounder like that; wouldn't have worked. We needed somebody fresh, and of course that makes the music fresh as well. Also, he's a very good singer. He's a good songwriter, and he has and he's full of enthusiasm. He really does get excited for recording and stuff, and he did a tremendous job on this one. In fact, what happened was when we recorded this. We had to record it, after, we were in as I've been saying, actually, we wrote it when the pandemic was on. So for a year and a half, we were writing at home. And then when we recorded it last August, it was still a lot of the rules and regulations and quarantines were there, So I've been telling everybody that we wrote it in jail and we recorded it on parole, So
that's great. I love that.
It kind of felt like that, and so it was... what happened is when we recorded it, because he lives out in Vienna, in Austria, we went into the studio here, the three of us, the instrumentalists, and we did all the backing tracks, and we're back and forward all the time because you get zoomed out, and we're backing forward all the time. And we were sending him the files, and he was recording in his own little studio in Austria. So it worked out fine. I mean, a lot of bands do that these days anyway, sending them back and forward, but for us it was different, because normally we're all in the studio at the same time. Every album I've done before this, so it was a wee bit new for us, but it turned out great. And I think it made everybody try even harder. You had to, really pull at all the stops.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a much different world, especially the last 2 years. And I guess we're fortunate that we have the technology, because something like this 30, 40 years ago, you could have never been recording an album this way 30, 40 years ago.
Oh, absolutely not. No, I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean, I remember when we did Malice in Wonderland, and it was Jeff Baxter who produced that. And Jeff, from Steely Dan and the Doobie Brothers. And I remember we were recording in Cherokee Studios in Hollywood, and Jeff lived out there, and he lived out there, and we went to his house one night, and they were just installing a jack sort of socket with because he was a big time session man, he was forever in the studio. He was in 3 or 4 studios a day, and they were putting this thing, and it was a lead, a feed, a high, I don't know what it was, a high quality link, to the studios, so he could do it up in the house. And at that time, I thought this was Star Trek, it was wow, wow, but this is before mobile phones and stuff, so that was then, and that was something so special. So compared to what we're doing now, it's just nothing. It's laughable.
Oh, without a doubt. Now let's talk about the songwriting process, right? So a couple of singles have been already released from the album. Very different than it was, again, back in the day. There's a lot of songs released beforehand, but Strange Days, Runaway have both been receiving a lot of positive feedback. But talk about the writing process of these songs.
Well, what happened was, again, like I say, we actually... Just when we were preparing to get ready to prepare for the album, that week, the lockdown came, the famous lockdown, or the infamous lockdown. And so it was really weird. Everybody, you had nothing else to do. You were trapped. You had nothing else to do except write songs, So we always knew there was going to be a lot of songs around when it came to, It was funny. I was just saying that to somebody else there, that Jimmy, our guitar player. I mean, we were about three or 4 months into the lockdown, and Jimmy had sent us 12 songs.
Oh, wow.
I thought, well, if we keep this up, we're going to have to do a triple album. So everybody was writing a lot, and so as it happened, it ended up like Jimmy and Carl, our singer, they both did solo albums as well as our one, because there was that much stuff about. But anyway, that was what was happening. Everybody was at home writing songs and doing demos and things. And when it came, and I've already said to you, like when it was choosing what to put on. You're trying to, on an album is, to get a running order, to get a kind of, you don't want the songs to be the same as each other, but you want to create. To get the atmosphere right, to get I always thought Tattooed on My Brain had almost like a kind of party atmosphere to the whole album, had that kind of thing, a kind of light thing. I thought this one is we Surviving the Law has felt a bit heavier and some of the subject matter as well, a little bit darker in some places than Tattooed on My Brain. I mean, a really good album, but in a different way. So when it came to actually picking the songs, basically we play them and we put them through and see how they sound, when we're saying, well, yeah, that one sounded good. No, maybe better than that. But just once you're getting them, you're thinking, well, this would be really great, and that'd be good on an album with that,
Mm-hmm.
And some of the other ones we had, thought there were some other really good songs, but you're thinking, well, it maybe wouldn't fit just as well, on with this sort of list, if you like. So It was quite exciting, actually, having to pick the songs. It was we were basically putting them up and saying everybody giving them sort of marks out of 10. You were saying out of these 12, what are your favourite 6? And everybody putting a little star next to the ones they liked. And the one that gets the most stars, and they record it.
There you go. No, yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the sequencing and all of that, because for those of us like myself, yourself, who grew up in the 70s, 80s, listening to music, sequencing on an album was really important to me. And that art's lost a little bit because now so many people stream songs and they just hear a song here, a song there. But the sequencing to me is really important. And I know when I listened to the album through, the last song, You Made Me, which to me kind of stood out. It's like you have a bunch of hard rockers throughout the album, and then all of a sudden it's like this throwback sound to the 60s, the 70s that kind of almost brings everything full circle to me. So I love that you mentioned the sequencing, and just talk about that song You Made Me, and because it does stand out to me as a bit different than everything else.
Well, I was saying that it's the only one actually that that I wrote that's on the album, and then I sung it.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was, it was out here, album 25. I did a song on the first album. I Had a Dream, and I thought album 25 going well. I'm having a song on this one. And it was quite funny because a lot of the writing that because we were stuck in jail, like I'm saying, writing, mine were kind of introverted. The songs I was writing all seemed to be. I'm better when I'm traveling around when I'm writing, So I felt a wee bit trapped, and things, they started to feel a wee bit personal. So I thought a lot of the songs I wrote, I didn't think really fitted for the album. So when we came to doing it, we picked all the other stuff. But the guys had heard that demo and they said, we're definitely doing that one because we, they really liked it. So, and I thought, well, that's great. So, and there's only one place you can put that thing because it is absolutely so, you can't put it in the middle of an album. We just, would stop it,
Sure.
So, and we thought it's a nice way to close an album after you've had your head kicked in with everything. There's a wee kind of thing to mosey out, at the end. So it's a nice little mood to finish up. That's when you have your cup of milk and go to bed after you hear that one.
I love it. Now, have I read right that in the past, before you were in Nazareth, that you were lead singer in one of your earlier bands?
Yeah. Well, what happened was that the band that Nazareth came out of was the Shadettes, and I started that band in '61, and I was a rhythm guitar player, lead singer, up until about 65, when Dan was my pal. He used to run around with us, and we got Dan in because I had another guy. We used to do twin vocals. He came in about 60. 63, 64. And we got used to doing these twin vocals. And when he left, we thought, we need to get somebody else. So somebody said, well, what about Dan? And we said, well, what about Dan? He said, well, he travels with us in the van. He can sing. He sounds good. We said, yeah, give him a shot. That was the best thing we ever did. Because what we did, we actually had a world-class vocalist, but didn't know, around a bit. So Dan came in, and again, we used to, with the Shadettes, we did a kind of twin vocal thing, him and I, and we'd do different songs each. And then eventually, it started then, right up about 69, I started playing the bass when they fired the bass player. So I started playing the bass. And then it really was then, it became Nazareth, the 4-piece with, 3 guys instrumentals. And Dan was definitely the lead singer. We started doing different kind of material then, Sure. And he definitely became the singer. And I thought, and of course, he turned out to be the man's iconic, it was like,
Yep.
There's a one and only,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
When he had to leave, did you ever consider being the lead singer and the front man for the band?
No. I don't know. I had a different voices way back then as well. No, nothing like that. What we did though, we got a great replacement, because it was wasn't easy, it was never going to, it's all, you can replace drummers and bass players and guitar players and keyboard players without much trouble. Bands do it all the time, but lead singers, it's a different thing. It's the sort of face of the band, and it's the kind of soul of the band, a lead singer. So even the bad ones are still like, that's the lead singer, you get used to it.
Absolutely.
So when we had one who was absolutely fantastic, that was, it was always going to be hard to get Dan a replacement for him. And like I say, I think Carol's done it. Well, I know Carol's done it very, very well. He's done a great job, and so it all worked out. But it was touch and go for a while. Whether we were going to be able to go on or not.
Sure. But, like I said, I think the album sounds very current and could certainly stand up to anything coming out in 2022. The flip side of that, of course, is that some people will say, hey, this doesn't sound like the classic Nazareth that I've grown up with. But when you hear that, what do you think? Well, hey, it's now 2022, life is different, or how do you react to when people say that?
Yeah, well, they get the problem. The members in the baseball team that they support has changed over the last 50 years as well. No, and the thing is, there's no such thing as a classic Nazareth, except with Dan's voice, because look at the songs that we've brought out. We've got like rock songs, ballads, we've got country songs. We never stuck to one sort of thing. So I could play you 20 Nazareth songs, and the backing tracks sound like 20 different bands, and but the only thing that's there is the same, as we've got the same guy singing the lead vocal. But then again, Dan could change his voice. He could have this rough, high voice. He could have this soft. He could change his voice a bit. So we never really had. When people talk, when I hear them talking about the classic Nazareth sound, I'm wondering what they mean.
Great answer.
Because what album was that? Because it's. I can understand. You can understand that people, that everybody always goes, I'll never be like the original band. Well, they say that about everybody, don't they? But they're all still listening to AC/DC. There's only one guy there. They're all still listening to Guns N' Roses.
Right.
They're still listening to the Eagles. And you get one guy. I suppose that's people are going to be like that. They attach their memories to the people that turned them on in the first place.
Right.
And I've noticed though the ones that have actually. The fans that we've still got, and there's a lot of them who actually said exactly the same thing. Oh, we get this things coming to Facebook all the time. People writing in and going like, well, I really thought when Dan left, it was all over, and I didn't want to like anybody else, but and so it's great, to see that we've managed to not just, what's good is to be able to come out with not just exist after it, but to actually make a point, when we brought out, not only did we change there, we've brought out 2 albums that, we can really hold our heads up, with the 2 albums have been like if there's such a thing as a step forward at this age, but if it's not a step forward, well, at least it's definitely keeping our head above the water, that's for sure.
No, to me, it is a step forward. And, it's amazing to me because you said before you're 75 and God bless you, I'm in my 50s. I think of the fact that when I'm hitting my 60s, I want to retire. I don't want to be traveling the world and still working. Where do you find the drive still after all of these? You have nothing left to prove, right? So where do you find the drive to keep putting out music and touring and doing all of that?
Well, sometimes the touring that can. Well, mind you, right now I would give I'd give my right arm to get on a tour, because of the,
sure.
But sometimes the touring can get a bit. The playing. I still like playing. It's just all the traveling. That can get to me, but that can get to anybody. But that does kind of wear me down after I've had 50 years of. If I never saw another airport in my life, I would be so happy.
Totally.
We've come forward in leaps and bounds, and we've got the phones, we've got the photo phones, we've got things like Star Trek. The only thing we haven't got is the beam me up, and when they get that's when we're touring would be really good. No, once a musician, you're always a musician. Musicians don't retire, but you die. But you don't retire.
You don't retire. That's so true.
There's no such thing, as like, okay, well, this is my retiral day. So, I just don't see myself doing anything else, And so I still actually enjoy being a performing musician. I mean, I think I'll probably always be like that. Well, if I'm like that at 75, there's a fair chance I'll be like that at 76. So
That's awesome. So it sounds like then there's no Nazareth farewell tour coming up anytime soon.
Well, no, nothing planned. When they see, we'll see when they're walking at the back of my box. Then you'll see if they maybe get another bass player in here.
Oh, that's great. So, I mean, like you said before, I mean, the touring industry has taken a major hit the last couple of years. Do you guys have plans to go out and tour for this? Touring's opening up a little bit. Do you have any plans to tour for the album?
Yeah. Well, I mean, to tell you right now, I should have just been. We should have finished 5 days ago a long Russian and Ukraine tour. That's what we should have been on. That had to get cancelled for obvious reasons. The ones before, other ones that even now, the pandemic is still not, it's not a pandemic anymore, but all the restrictions that they had in stopped the sale of tickets everywhere. So tours have been crippled all over Europe, really, really bad, Yeah. So we really don't get started again until it's going to be June before we start, June, July. After that, we're very, very busy. I've got tours all the way up through to Christmas time and past that, actually. So yeah, we're going to be busy again, thankfully. And that'll be to hope, it's a little bit after the album. But, when you bring an album out like this, you can call it your new album for the next 18 months anyway. When you're touring, it's the new album anyway, so you always do a few songs off of that. So yeah, we're very looking forward to getting back to playing. We played a couple of shows at the beginning of the year, and it was quite thrilling. We were actually up on the stage going, "Oh, this is good, eh?" Just like, I remember this. This is fun. So we're looking forward to that again. Yeah, get some proper rehearsals done and see if we can. I'm wondering. The only thing is carrying that lump of wood about for 90 minutes. I'm not sure about that. I get that muckle grape heavy bass that I've got. I'll have to get to training for that one.
Oh man, that's funny. So I mean, it's ironic you said that you were supposed to be playing Ukraine and Russia just the last couple of weeks, and I believe right before the pandemic, those were also the last places that you had played before the touring stopped. Am I correct in saying that?
We did.
Ukraine and Russia, right?
It was, yeah. We did a quite a long Russian tour. I think we did about 14 shows, and we actually played. It was weird actually, because that tour, when we started that tour, the first gig in the tour was Kiev, and the next gig in the tour, the next day was Moscow. Wow. So we went, we went for Ukraine up to Moscow, and of course, I mean, who would have thought? That was, it was just, unbelievable. So it was really, really horrible. Well, it's horrible for everybody, but we had really good friends in both these places. So it's hard to imagine them, being like this just now. But anyway, as you say, that was the last tour. Really, we finished up doing Russia, and then we did 2 shows in Slovenia, and that was us locked up, and never got out again for. Well, we're still waiting to get. We'll get started.
No, I'm sure you will. And I know a lot of bands are out there right now, at least here in America, and there's a lot of competition for the touring dollar right now. So even a band like Judas Priest, I saw they were playing some arenas that were half empty because there's so many tours out there right now and so many bands to pay. So maybe it's a good thing to kind of wait a few months. Like you said, July, you'll kick in for you because there's a lot of competition out there right now for people's money.
You see, you've got that there. You're really back to normal as far as people coming out again. We don't have that here yet. We still got restrictions, So there's still people touring, but there's still people going out. But it's very, people get the thing was people are still nervous about buying tickets. They always keep thinking it's going to be cancelled. They don't. They don't know, and then so I can see why. I can see why, because we kept thinking it was going to start again, Even in 2020, we thought it would be starting by the end of the year. So everybody advertised their gigs. Oh, they had to cancel them. We thought they'd start at the beginning of the next year. We advertised gigs, had to cancel them. We thought they'd finish at the beginning of the end of the year, and we just kept cancelling. So people don't have any, they're not feeling very good about it, so and confident about buying tickets, and then that affects the promoters as well. They're a bit dodgy, they're a bit tentative about putting shows on, and
Sure.
it all trickles down, it's not really going to get started again, I don't think, until over here anyway, till this summer, after this summer, and of course they're telling us now that the rates are going back up again, so who knows.
Right. So now with the new album coming out, obviously in the 60s, 70s, even the 80s, a successful album was a platinum album, double platinum, triple platinum. How do you measure success in 2022? Because nobody's selling 1 million albums these days anymore.
I'll tell you how stupid it is, right? These days, how stupid it is. Today, as an Easter gift to us, today, our album is on YouTube. The entire album for people to listen to for free.
Yeah,
we put that up as an Easter present today. We put that up. The album gets released tomorrow, but they can check it out and go and listen to the whole thing. That would have been complete. People used to get their hands busted for selling bootlegs. You know. Nowadays, you're giving them. There are people that the record companies are giving them away for free. How to judge what a hit album is these days? I don't know. I mean, it's not sales, that's for sure.
That's for sure.
And what we get is we get things sent through. Congratulations, you've got 1 million followers on 1.2 million followers on Spotify. And you think, that's wonderful. I must have made about $6.
Right. Unfortunately.
So what's happened again is that it used to be back then in the 70s and stuff. So it was, you went out, you toured to promote the album. So, and you were willing to they would take a loss on tours, would come out with these huge productions. It didn't matter because you'd make your living off your album. Nowadays, you bring the album out and then you go out to tour to make the money.
That's the exact opposite of what it used to be.
That's absolutely, completely opposite. So, I mean, what you get is, the last album we had there, Tattooed on My Brain, that was considered a hit.
Right.
Now, if you were looking at my bank account from Tattooed on My Brain, it doesn't look like a hit.
It doesn't look like a hit.
As in the old days when they used to say, I remember there was one we had, we got a release, a song called Holiday, which is still a very, very popular song in America. And it was released as a single there. And when people went to buy it, they couldn't get it. It was just never in the stores. A&M never got that record to the stores. It was a disaster. But it became what they called a radio hit, which is great. I mean, everybody knew it, everybody requested it, but you don't make any money off it. Right. So that's what you do. These days you get a Spotify hit, or you get a streamed hit, or you get a YouTube hit. Which is, it's nice. It's nice to be famous, but
very funny. So you mentioned in hit songs, and obviously one of the big hits for Nazareth is the cover that you guys did of Love Hurts. Where did that come in for you guys? Like, how did you guys find out about that, and who decided that you guys should cover that song?
No, we just always loved it. I mean, we used to drive around and through in our van, all over Europe. You're driving through the night to the next gig in Germany or Belgium or wherever you were going. Everybody crammed up in the van, and you play your cassettes, of your favourite, the compilation cassettes we used to make up.
Yes,
and that was one. And it was Graham Parsons and Emmylou Harris singing that. It's still my favourite version of Love Hurts. Is them singing it on the Grievous Angel album, the Graham Parsons album. And we just used to love that song so much. We loved them singing it. We knew the song. I mean, it was an old song. But that just the way they did it. And we always thought, one time we thought, we'd in the studio and we used to sometimes say, try this one and we'll do it as a B-side. It was always just, we'll do a B-side.
Right.
And that's what that was done. It was done as a B-side. It wasn't even on the Hair of the Dog album. It was never on that album. It's only on that album in America. That Hair of the Dog album throughout the rest of the world doesn't have Love Hurts on it. It was just that A&M put that one on. So it was just a stroke of luck, really, But I mean, what we did is we loved the song. They made us love the song. But of course, then when we're going to record it, when you're going to record another song, you've really got to treat the original song. If you want it to be a success for your cover, is treat the original song as a demo, and then you do what you're going to do. I mean, the one that we changed the most and the biggest hit we had throughout the world other than America, was This Flight Tonight with Joni Mitchell. And you hear Johnny's version, obviously, sitting there with a guitar, and then the war that Nazareth created around it, and that was how to do a cover version and make it yours,
And to that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was going to say to that point, I mean, there's so many people, it's 40 plus years later, there's so many people I talk to, and they don't even realize that Love Hurts is a cover. They think it's a Nazareth song. To me, you guys have, I'll call it the definitive version of that song.
Well, if it had been a Nazareth song and I'd written it, I'd have probably retired before now. Counting my money. Because, I mean, when we recorded Love Hurts, I think there was 42 or 43 recorded versions of it before we recovered it. People like Roy Orbison and, and the Everly Brothers, and all giant artists. Yes. And now there's something like, I think there's 70 odd recordings of it. It just happens so we got the big one, But I mean, no, we never wrote it. That was Felice and Bodle O'Brien. They were very good songwriters.
Yeah. Would you say that you have the definitive version, or do you think there's another version that's better than the Nazareth one?
Yeah, the one I like to listen to is in fact, I just listened. It was funny. It was like last night. I was going through some stuff on the YouTube, and I was looking at I was looking at rival sons. I was looking at them, and because one of my favorite singers in the world, that boy. And so, but we're just, I was just having a look through things, and for some reason I saw a Grant Parsons thing, and I thought, oh, I haven't heard that for a while, and I put it up, and it just took me back, and it was it's a wonderful, wonderful version of Love Hurts that they do together. But it's a lovely song. I mean, it's a great song,
it really
and I don't think everybody. There's no, I mean, even Keith Richard covered it, for God's sake. I mean, come on, we're everybody loves that song.
Agreed. Now, the flip side of that is, I remember in the 90s, Guns N' Roses covered Hair of the Dog. So what do you think of their cover of that song?
Yeah. I mean, it's good. I mean, when Guns N' Roses do Hair of the Dog, it pretty much sounds like Nazareth with Axl singing. There's not that really much. There's not much you can do with that song. When it's a rock, it's a straightforward big riff kind of thing. So they got a great sound in it, and I'm very, very happy they did it, by the way, because it was good for us. And what was good about these things is when you get people like that saying, "Well, this is one of my favourite bands," then their younger fans, they go, "Oh, I'll take a look at the guys that my guys like," and then it all kind of trickles down. So it was a good move. It was good. It was great for us that they covered it. But I think the version was a good version. But as I said, to me, it sounded pretty much like us.
Yep, I would agree. Now, when that song first came out in '75, the lyric, "Now you're messing with a son of a bitch," was a little bit controversial, right?
It makes you laugh now, eh?
Yeah, totally. Now it seems like it's rated G compared to today, but at that time, that caused a lot of controversy.
It was so funny because the album was called, we made the album, it was called Son of a Bitch, because we never thought anything of it because we're Scottish. And son of a bitch, nobody says that here. It's not a saying. You know how it's an Americanism that people say it over there. Nobody says it anywhere else in the world. It means nothing, And we thought it was fair because John Wayne says it, So I mean, it must be okay, But anyway, what happened was, you're messing with the son of a bitch, and we called the album Son of a Bitch. Of course, A&M just said, "Oh, Sears won't sell it," and we thought, "What's all this about?" No, you can't call it that. So we thought, what are we going to do here? So we changed it to Hair of the Dog, like HEIR, and then being smart ass, But we thought, and then somebody said, "Hey, Hair of the Dog, that's a Hair of the Dog," So we called it that. It means nothing. I mean, it absolutely means nothing. There's not one point in that album we say "Hair of the Dog," in that song. In the song, it's "Son of a Bitch," and all the punters call it that. All the fans call it that. So it was what was great about it was when Love Hurts came out. The album had been out for about 6 months. It didn't do anything. But Love Hurts eventually became a hit because there was a DJ down in Beaumont, Texas, kept playing it. He kept playing it. It spread out and it became a big hit. So then people would buy the album and they didn't know what to really expect because we never had a hit in the States. We'd had hits all over the world, but not in the States. So this was the first breakthrough. And of course, when they bought the album, they heard this son of a bitch song. Oh, yeah, I like this. But because nobody could play it on AM radio there. So we were getting Love Hurts getting played all day on the radio, and then all night on the college stations, they could play what they liked. They were playing Son of a Bitch, So we had these two great hits, although there was only one single, that came off. And that's what sort of with that thing starting off as a B-side and getting on the album. And the whole album was an accident, that happened. It was a great accident that happened, how it got as big as it did. I mean, like I say, it was out for 6 months before it did anything, So we feel very, very lucky and very thankful for that one,
And to me, it's an amazing story to listen to because I don't think something like that would happen in today's music industry where you're saying like a DJ's playing a song. Radio is very corporate these days and are told what to play. I kind of feel like that whole art of a DJ finding a song and really pushing it has been lost.
No, it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. Right. Even up here, I remember there's a couple of friends of ours that were DJs in the 70s, and even into when we got into the late 70s, that was already happening. They were given a list, and this is what you play. There used to be a time when they used to come on and say, "I've got this great album. I'm going to play the whole side." You couldn't do that now. You just it wouldn't be allowed. And I don't know. It's a different world, isn't it?
It really is. Now, of course, you like you mentioned before, Carl's the quote unquote new guy in the band. Has been there for 7 years. When Dan had to leave for health reasons, I know he said at that time, "Hey, maybe one day I'll record with the band again, maybe do a song." Is there any chance something like that would happen, or do we think that that is in the past?
Dan's pretty ill now, he doesn't sort of get out at all, So he's not getting any worse, but he's not going to get any better, So he couldn't really come out and tour, and I think he'd find it. He did do a solo album at the same time when we did Tattooed in My Brain. He was doing it in the same studio, in fact, and. He came along to our sessions a couple of times to hear what we were getting up to, but it was very slow. And, he could record okay because he could take his time, sing a few lines, take a break, sing a line, Sure. But now that was a while ago now. That's, I don't think he could even manage that now. But, I think he's given up all thoughts of doing any more recording or anything. That's a shame, but it's horrible to see. But there you go. That's life.
Yeah, unfortunately. So when was the last time that you spoke with him?
Oh, Dan lives 5 minutes from me. I saw him last week. But all for the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. I used to be able to nick down and see him anytime I liked, but the last 2 years, because of his illness, it's COPD, it's lungs, Mm-hmm. So, nobody went, we all had to stay well away from him. And if we'd given him an infection, it would have been fatal, So I just used to talk to him on the phone. No, but I've seen him in the last 2 years. I've maybe seen him only like 3 times. But I could almost open the window and shout to him, he's literally, in the car. It takes me about 3 minutes to get to his house. He lives in the village next door to us, so we're still very close.
Okay, all right. Well, hopefully things could improve a little bit for him health-wise. Yeah. So I know we were talking about Axl Rose before, and Axl Rose has said in the past that he felt Nazareth was one of the world's most underrated bands. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. Good on you, Axl. Yes, I agree with you entirely, son. He always was he always did like the band. When we were in, before they did their first album, if you like, when we played in California, we did a bunch of shows over there, and him and the guys came to them all. They used to just show up, and so we got to know them before they became the Guns N' Roses. Huge. Mind you, they were always, they always had that. There was always that vibe about them. They always had that feeling that they were going to do something. Those boys, and they did.
Yeah, that is for sure. So looking back on your career, right? So what would you, if you were looking at yourself at 15 years old, a kid in Scotland, what do you think that kid would say that you're still performing, still recording 60 plus years later.
Yeah, I mean, when I was 15 at that age, and we never even thought about making records in Scotland. Nobody thought. I mean, when I was 21, nobody thought about making records in Scotland. It wasn't done. You just played all the bands in Scotland played the top 40, and you played in the dance halls and the clubs and the bars. So it's the whole thing just happened. And Nazareth were one of the first. In fact, there's a story today in the news in the local Dunfermline Press, our local newspaper. There's a big story today about us doing the album, the 25th album. We are the most recorded band in Scotland.
Congratulations! Nice.
So yeah, well, the only band that comes anywhere close to us is like Simple Minds. They've got 18 studio albums, but we get 25. And there's a lot of stuff came out of Scotland now. But back then, we were one of the first, the first rock band to come, so I feel very pleased about that. But at 15, I never. At 15, I was really, our sort of ambition was to become the resident band in the local ballroom. There's the
right.
And we managed that. We did that. By the time I was 19, I'd reached what I thought that was the peak of my career.
Right.
Was playing in the Kinema Ballroom, and it was a great thing to be, here. That was a big deal. I never ever thought that I'd have been talking to you in Long Island when I was 75. It was. Last night, it's funny. I was just saying to my wife last night. I had 3 interviews yesterday, and the first one was, and it's the time zones you've got to get right. The first one was the guy come on, and he was in the States, Perth, Australia, in West Australia.
Wow.
My second interview was an hour later, was a guy in San Antonio in Texas. And my third interview was a woman in Milan in Italy. Now, I mean,
amazing. 3 different parts of the world.
Yeah, unbelievable. And the other thing is, you can, and the other thing is these days, you could see all those people. You could travel and see these people within a day. Just it's amazing. Just amazing.
And that's the plus side of all the technology, right? We were talking at the start of this about how you were able to record an album during a pandemic, right? We were saying 30 years ago, 20 years ago, even you wouldn't be able to do that. It gives bands much more opportunity to do things that weren't available to them decades ago.
There's a lot of guys and a lot of artists work with one another who have never actually run into one another. You can have somebody else play, in the record, and you don't have to actually be there. So there's endless possibilities.
There really is. Now, you were talking before about touring coming up in July. When you're putting together a set list, it's got to be tough for you because you've got an incredible body of work, and that there are fans there that just want to hear and see the hits and hear them. So how do you balance that when putting together a set list between wanting to do and having to do all those classics and wanting to do some of the new songs as well?
Well, you get 60% of the set basically is chosen. That's the songs that this is the part of the set. Whereas if we don't play this, they want their money back. And I don't blame them, because if I go and see somebody, I'm not, the new stuff I'm saying fine, but let me hear, Rock Me on the Water, Jackson. I want to hear, Jamaica Say You Will. I want to hear the new stuff. But so what we do is, you get 60. They've got to be played, and every time you go out. But then then maybe you do maybe 3. Maybe 4, but generally 3 from the new album, because people don't want to hear a whole new album. They want to hear a few. They want to see and then you've got that other bit of the set there where you can. That's the bit that kind of changes. Maybe we'll look 4 or 5, 3, or even just 4 or 5 songs that you can mess around with and say, well, we did that one. It's years since we did that. We'll do that one. But the other thing is, we've got different. See, when Nazareth, we're quite lucky in this way. We've got a lot of the hits that we've had, one international hits. We get a big hit in Brazil or something, that wasn't a hit in America. So when we go down there, we're playing a thing, something that is not in our set list when we play in Texas, is like, it was a #1 record in Brazil, so it's, you're playing it there. So we change the sets like that. We've got a song called Animals. In Russia, that is the biggest, not only the biggest song that we've ever done, it's probably the biggest rock song in Russia,
Wow.
and we never play it anywhere else
Right.
except over there. And what happens is, there was one night we were touring in the States. Oh, this is maybe about 20 years ago or something. We thought, let's play Animals one night. We'll just stick it in and see, because it's a great number. It's a really great number. So we thought, oh, we'll do that. So we played it. And everybody sort of went, yeah, they kind of...
right. The
yeah,
polite applause.
Nice. Now, come on, could you play something? I was like, okay, well, there you go. So sometimes, we change our set around. For instance, Dream On was a huge hit in Europe. Whereas in America, you can put it in the set if you like, but nobody pays that much attention. But it was huge. If you watch daytime TV in Germany, you're going to see that song getting sung in one of these soap operas at least once every hour.
Right.
So that's how. So we've got kind of different sets that we play in different parts of the world. So that keeps it interesting.
Oh, that sounds great. It definitely helped keep it interesting. So we were saying before that the new album, 25th album, Surviving the Law, is coming out officially tomorrow. You can find it on YouTube today. I say this to everybody whenever I'm talking with any musicians. I strongly encourage people to go out and buy the vinyl, buy the CD, whatever it is, buy a physical product, because you said it before, you could have 1 million subscribers on Spotify and get $6. And to me, that's really unfair, really, really unfair for the musicians. It's such a poor business model. So I really, and the new album's coming out on vinyl, it's coming out on cassette, if that's your thing, it's coming out on CD, different color vinyls. There's something for everything, for everybody.
If you get the cassette, get your pencils ready again, for the cassette.
That's right. That is right. That's very funny. Yeah, I actually have a cassette deck about 10 feet away from me whenever I'm doing these.
Well, I'm the same. The thing is, I've got hundreds of them, because it was when we were touring, and that's what you used to take on the road with you. And we used to make up our own. You'd have your vinyls at home, and we used to get. I remember before I'd go out and tour, I'd make up maybe two tour cassettes. One of these. These like 3-hour jobs, when you could do it. And you'd put on, right, I'm going to put on Freddie King's Going Down, and then the next one I'm going to put on, Warren Zevon and someone else, and have you make up my own hit records to take on the cassettes. I've got loads of those,
Oh, absolutely. Me too, without a doubt. So is there anything else about the new album that you want your fans to know about?
Yeah, look up where they can buy it. That's no, I think. I think our fans, they know about it. They know it's coming out, and they know. I don't think they're going to be disappointed. And I think. They've been hearing, if they've been hearing interviews like with yourself, where it's been explained how it was done and stuff. And I hope that that's great. It's great. Everybody gets to know how we went about doing things. I think they're going to dig it. Anybody that all the Nazareth fans are always going to like you, but anybody that like Tattooed in My Brain, they're definitely going to love. They're going to love this album.
And I'm going to just add on to what you said. I think if you're just a rock music fan, you're going to love this. And give it a listen. I think it's a great album. It sounds very current. It sounds fresh. It's exciting. It's some good stuff. And I could say, I think, check it out online if you want to, fans, but then go buy that physical product and support the artists that we all love.
I thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you. And we look forward to seeing the band out on the road during 2022. And let's hope things continue to progress that direction. And maybe you'll be back in the States sooner rather than later.
Well, we're talking about doing a tour next year. We're trying to put something together for October, but I think it's too quick that now. You need to have things in the pipeline long before that. Even just to get visas takes a while.
Absolutely. Well, definitely the American fans will look forward to it. Pete, I want to thank you for the time today. Best of luck with the new album.
I enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
We'll get in touch here. Cheers.
Excellent. Alrighty, there you have it. I'd like to thank Pete for taking some time out talking with me all about the 25th album release from Nazareth, Surviving the Law. I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. You should definitely check that out. Thanks again, Pete. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.